Thank you very much for coming here this evening. The North Atlantic Council met tonight to express its solidarity with the United States of America at this moment of great tragedy and mourning. Our deepest sympathy lies with the victims, their families, and all Americans. The NATO nations unanimously condemn these barbaric acts committed against a NATO member state. The mindless slaughter of so many innocent civilians is an unacceptable act of violence without precedent in the modern era. It underscores the urgency of intensifying the battle against terrorism, a battle that the NATO countries, indeed all civilized nations, must win. All allies stand united in their determination to combat this scourge. At this critical moment, the United States can rely on its 18 allies in North America and Europe for both assistance and for support. NATO solidarity remains the essence of our alliance. Our message to the people of the United States is that we are with you. Our message to those who perpetrated these unspeakable crimes is equally clear. You will not get away with it. On September the 12th, the North Atlantic Council met again in response to the appalling attacks perpetrated yesterday against the United States of America. The Council agreed that if it is determined that this attack was directed from abroad against the United States, it shall be regarded as an action covered by Article 5 of the Washington Treaty, which states that an armed attack against one or more of the allies in Europe or in North America shall be considered an attack against them all. The commitment to collective self-defense embodied in the Washington Treaty was first entered into in circumstances very different from those that exist now, but it remains no less valid and no less essential today in a world subject to the scourge of international terrorism. Article 5 of the Washington Treaty stipulates that in the event of attacks falling within its purview, each ally will assist the party that has been attacked by taking such action as it deems necessary. Accordingly, the United States NATO allies stand ready to provide the assistance that may be required as a consequence of these acts of barbarism. In accordance with Article 5, Paragraph 2 of the Washington Treaty, I will be this evening informing the Secretary General of the United Nations in the spirit of Article 5 of the Washington Treaty and consistent with Article 51 of the UN Charter that this statement has been passed by the North Atlantic Council. Thank you very much. This morning, the United States briefed the North Atlantic Council on the results of their investigation into who was responsible for the horrific terrorist attacks which took place on the 11th of September. The briefing addressed the events of 11th September themselves, the results of the investigation so far, what is known about Osama bin Laden and the Al-Qaeda organization and their involvement in the attacks and in previous terrorist activity, and the links between Al-Qaeda and the Taliban regime in Afghanistan. The facts are clear and compelling. The information presented points conclusively to an Al-Qaeda role in the 11th of September attacks. We know that the individuals who carried out these attacks were part of the worldwide terrorist network, Al-Qaeda, headed by Osama bin Laden and his key lieutenants, and protected by the Taliban. On the basis of this briefing, it has now been determined that the attack against the United States of America on the 11th of September was directed from abroad and shall therefore be regarded as an action covered by Article 5 of the Washington Treaty, which states that an armed attack on one or more of the allies in Europe or North America shall be considered as an attack against them all. I want to reiterate yet again today that the United States of America can rely on the full support of its 18 NATO allies in the campaign against international terrorism. The Russian response to the terrible attacks against the United States has not only been befitting a major partner of this alliance, but has also been the reaction of a real and genuine friend. And all of the allied nations and their defence ministers appreciated this very much. As NATO and Russia stated in our joint declaration on the 13th of September, we both condemn the cowardly acts against the United States on the September the 11th, and we are united in our determination to work together in fighting the scourge of international terrorism. Today we had a very useful exchange, both of opinions and views, but also of information that sometimes only ministers of defence can focus on. And we had an exchange of views on what we were going to do about that information and how we would progress our joint work and deliberations in the Permanent Joint Council. We jointly agreed to intensify our coordination and cooperation, starting with enhanced consultation at a senior level, and a meeting will take place at that level next week in order to start off the work that will take place in the future.